Welcome to Building an Automated AI Assistant. In this series of videos, we will build an automated AI assistant that will be capable of utilizing various tools to solve everyday work problems and execute tasks on a typical workday. I have decided to approach this a little bit differently. So instead of using arbitrary examples that might not solve real problems, I will use parts of my own workflow as a practical example. However, the skills and techniques you will learn here can for sure be applied to a wide range of scenarios. My goal is twofold here. First of all, solve real-world problems for content creators, technology coaches, and teachers like myself. And second, to master AI-assisted automation. And let's be honest, there's a lot of curiosity driving me into starting this project, and I'm sure I will also learn a lot for myself on this project here. We will start by covering the basics and setting up our tool stack, and at first, I would like to present to you how our tool stack will look like and what tools we will be using here. The first and most important tool in our toolbox will be n8n, which will allow us to create powerful workflows and to also create and manage AI agents and any interaction with AI and different APIs. The second tool will be Ollama, and this is a tool that will allow us to run AI locally, and you can download multiple models that are similar to things like ChatGPT or Claude from the Ollama website and run them on your local computer. And you can also use your GPU to have faster and better performance for this. The advantage is it will be free, you will not be reliant on any vendor, and of course all your data and your interactions with the AI will be completely private. The third tool we will be using is Baserow. You can think of Baserow as our project's central nervous system, really. It's an open source database tool we will use to store and manage crucial data for our project here. For example, we will create a prompt library for our AI agents, manage pieces of content, and basically organize all of our data in one central place here. The big advantage of using Baserow is that it easily scales with the needs of our workflow, and later on we can use the application builder that is included in Baserow to create a web application to easily work with all of our data here. And the last one is Quadrant. This will serve as our vector store, allowing our AI agent to look up and retrieve relevant data as context when we ask questions or give tasks to our AI agent. Quadrant will allow us to store any kind of document or data, and with AI we will create vector embeddings, so it will be very easy to do a similarity search to our queries to the AI and get relevant data back to use in our context window for the AI. So just to give you a brief overview how these tools come into play, this is the n8n interface, and this is just a schema workflow I have created here. So we have the AI agent as our central part, and I will just start here at the left. We have our large language model, which is provided by Ollama, and we have a Postgres chat memory, and this will make sure that we can have conversation memory when interacting with the AI. So the conversations will be stored to a database in order to use them later on or continue the conversation. The second part will be the vector store, and this I already explained when I talked about Quadrant. And here we will also use Ollama to create vector embeddings and to interact with the vector store to retrieve relevant information for the tasks. On the right side, we will have all kinds of tools our AI agent will be able to use. And I have separated Baserow here from the other tools because with Baserow, it's possible to use it as a tool directly for the AI agent. So for example, when we have a table with contacts or tasks or whatever in Baserow, the AI agent can access it directly over the Baserow tool and just fetch the relevant contact data or whatever from it. And of course, we will use Baserow later on when it comes to the other tools also. And then we will provide some tools the agent can use. So for example, we have web search and Wikipedia, which are standard tools that come with N8N. And we will also be building our own tools. So for example, I want to build a YouTube tool that will take care of subtitles, translations for titles and description, and so on and so forth. Because when you create YouTube content, there's a lot of more work around it than just recording and cutting videos together. And what I also would like to automate and have AI help me with is my ghost blog, and also to optimize and improve my social media. That's basically the kinds of things we will be building in the next couple of videos. So now we have outlined our goals and tools, and yeah, let's get this thing set up here. Fortunately, N8N has built a self-hosted AI starter kit, and this will provide a lot of the components I have just talked about out of the box. So this will make the installation of the whole toolbox very easy for us. And as you can see here, it includes self-hosted N8N as our automation platform, Ollama, Quadrant, and also PostgreSQL as a database for our conversational memory. There are 2 additional requirements, and I will not go very much into detail how to install these, as there are installers for any kind of operating system. So first of all, we will need Git in order to clone the repository for the AI starter kit. And the second tool we will be using is Docker, because the AI starter kit is a Docker Compose setup that contains different Docker containers. So in order to follow along, you need to have installed Git and Docker to get this up and running here. To start with the installation, we can just follow the installation instructions on the repo from N8N. Here I can just copy and paste the git clone command into my terminal here. And this will download the repo from GitHub. And now I can just cd into the directory here and clear this out. And now when you have a look at the documentations, there are different scenarios we can run this in. So first of all, we have instructions for NVIDIA GPU users and also for Mac Apple Silicon users here. And I will just start by showing to you the everyone else section. The reason why this is separated here in the documentation is that when it comes to running AI locally over Ollama, it is possible to use a dedicated GPU in order to greatly improve the performance when interacting with the large language models. And these are specific to the host platform. So this is a little bit different when it comes to Linux, Windows, or macOS. So I would just start with the variant that's running on the CPU, and then we will go through the GPU versions here. So in order to get this started now, I can just copy over this command and put it into my terminal. And this will just be docker compose -- profile CPU up. And when I execute this, the whole software stack will be started here. And when I head over to my browser and enter localhost :5678, I'm greeted by the setup page for N8N, where I can set up an owner account here. So just let me quickly do that. And here you can see there's already a demo workflow that is coming with the AI starter kit from N8N. And when I click on here, this is just a very basic AI workflow. So we have a chat trigger, a basic LLM chain, and the possibility to interact with the Ollama chat model here. What is also built in here are example credentials. So when you set this up, this is already connected to the Quadrant API database and to the local Ollama service here. When we have a look back here at the documentation and especially have a look at the GPU stuff, you can see just from the commands here, there are different profiles. And in order to use the same stack here and forward your GPU to the Ollama service, you will need to execute a different profile. So in case of an NVIDIA GPU, you would just enter docker compose -- profile and then GPU - NVIDIA up. And this will forward your graphics card to the Ollama container and greatly improve the performance here. Actually, GPU forwarding is only available on Linux. You cannot do that on Windows and Mac, so I will touch on that later on. And in my case, I don't have an NVIDIA GPU. So in order to use my GPU, I had to make some modifications to the Docker Compose file. I will share a link down in the description so you can have a look at it and use it for yourself in case you have an AMD card. And what I basically did, I just added a new profile for AMD GPUs to the Docker Compose file. So there is nothing complicated to it really. So when I execute docker compose -- profile and then GPU - AMD up, this will execute the same stack of software, but just with GPU acceleration for Ollama. And I added a -D in order to start the services and send them to the background, so we don't have this very long log output here. So when I execute this command, the software will be started. And when I have a look at the log output for Ollama, you can see that it recognized my GPU, and here it found that my GPU has 24 GB of VRAM and there are available 22.7. So this is working when it comes to GPU acceleration on Linux here. For GPU acceleration for Apple and Windows, the instructions are very similar. Basically, this boils down to installing Ollama as a separate app and not run it in a Docker container. And this is also linked on the AI Starter Kit documentation from n8n. So you can just go to the Ollama website and just download the version of the Ollama software for Windows or macOS, and then you are good to go. And I will quickly show you how to set this up on Windows. So when you are on Windows and you have downloaded the Ollama software, you can just double-click Ollama Setup and then hit install. And in my case, Ollama is already installed, so I get a warning here, but that's basically just a one-click install. You just hit next a couple of times and then you are good to go. And what I also would recommend to you when you are using Docker on Windows is to install the subsystem for Linux here. And that's basically just right-clicking on your desktop and opening the terminal. And then you just enter wsl -- install. And I have that already installed on my Windows VM here, and this will basically set up the Linux subsystem for you, and there's nothing really complicated to it. On your Docker desktop, you need to change two settings here from the default, and when you have Docker desktop running, you can just go for the settings and just scroll down a little bit, and you need to activate the use WSL2 based engine. And there's also another point I would like to add, and we will add the Docker internal names to our host file. And this will enable us to communicate from inside the Docker container from n8n with Ollama that is running on our host machine. And then all we need to do is we need to go to our project folder where we have cloned the repo and open the terminal. And instead of executing a profile for the different Ollama scenarios, we can just enter docker compose up, and this will just start the software stack here. And when I go to the web interface here, I have our demo workflow again. And in order to have this working with the Ollama instance on our host machine, I need to go to home credentials, and I need to make a change for the credentials here. So I open the local Ollama service, and instead of referring to Ollama, to the Ollama container, I can just enter host.docker.internal and retry, and you can see the connection to Ollama is successful. And then I can just go to my demo workflow here, hit the chat bubble, and I don't know, ask the AI to tell me a joke. And now I get a response back. And that's basically how you get it up and running. And the same we have seen here on Windows applies to the Apple systems. And with that, you are basically good to go, and you will be able to follow the rest of the videos here. So the only thing we need in our toolbox that's left is Baserow now. And when you go to the Baserow website, there are different solutions you can use. So in order to follow this tutorial, and dependent on how much data you will produce with your AI, it might be good enough for you to just start with a free Baserow cloud, because you will get 2 GB of storage and 3000 rows per workspace, and that will probably be enough for a lot of people. If you need more capabilities and you don't want to pay for it, you can easily self-host Baserow. And I will also link to a video where I have showed the Baserow installation with Docker, and then you are good to go. So that's it for our basic setup here. And in the next videos, we will start building out the tools and set everything up in order to get our agent up and running. So see you on the next video. Bye bye.